breaking barriers and bridging the gaps between patients and doctors. Welcome to Brainstorming with the Docs and your co-hosts, Dr. Glenn Harrison and Dr. Kolby Condos.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of Brainstorming with the Docs. I'm Dr. Kolby Condos. My co-host, as always, Dr. Glenn Harrison. How's it going, bud?
Doing great. Yeah, we can always have more energy, can't we?
We can. This is a good one. This is one that we get like.
Let's be energetic,
fast and loose.
Okay.
So today we're talking about natural energy boosters or enhancements, and we are going to talk about some lifestyle, a little bit of diet, and some nutraceutical interventions. If this is your first time watching or listening to the podcast, and you get value out of learning about natural energy enhancing options, please hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications, because we're going to continue to roll out new content each and every week. And hopefully we roll out something that's applicable to you. So let's go. Why did we choose to do this?
Well, low energy, I think we talked about this. It's definitely in the top 2 or the top 3 complaints of everybody that comes in my office, you know, and probably the same with you, right? In the top 3.
I would say, yeah, it might not be like a top one, but it's always associated. Like, I have brain fog and fatigue and low energy in the app. You know, it's always there.
Yeah, and low energy is always a product of. It's always, I always like to say it's a final product of chronic illness. Right? We never are sick and have high energy ever. So there's lots of reasons for low energy. I don't want anybody listening to this think, oh my goodness, you know, this is going to flip the switch. These are going to be tools, I guess. These are going to be symptoms, if we can think of it that way. So it definitely compromises quality of life. When I see people with low energy, that a lot of times they won't come in. They just say, I just don't have as much ambition as I had before. I've just lost my motivation. And well, they're really telling me almost always, not always, that they don't have any energy to have ambition or motivation. Because energy, ambition, and motivation are the first things that disappear after energy is gone. Also, you know, lower energy opens up the door to all these other metabolic disorders, as we talked about, cancers and autoimmunities and on and on and on. So low energy isn't only a product of sickness, of chronic illness. It's also an open door to develop.
Yeah, precursor to it, right?
Serious metabolic disorders. So if I see people chronically exhausted, and it doesn't matter their age, but even if they're young, like 20 or ish or 30 or whatever, I'm like, oh my goodness. And this has been going on for 5, 10, whatever years. You know, what kind of scary stuff is this individual going to get diagnosed with unless this is taken care of? Yeah. You know, it's frightening, I think. Anyway, so I guess we'll jump into, want to start blazing through some high level lifestyle pieces, and then maybe we can
and honestly, like, we've talked so much about some of these, so I'm just gonna, like, if you have questions on these individual components, there's probably a podcast back for so things that, like, every single patient in my office we hit on, right? Hydration.
Right. Same with me. It's like,
so you got to stay hydrated, and you want to make sure that you are appropriately hydrated. You're not just like chugging straight water, because then you can become like overhydrated. And it's all dependent on like the osmolarity. So like you can become hypotonic, isotonic, hypertonic. Don't worry about those, what those means. That just means that every once in a while you're going to want to mix in some electrolytes and salt.
That's right. That's exactly right. Whatever climate you're in and whatever activity level you are, I think that's the simplest thing, because a lot of disorders deplete. Well, we've talked about this before with our adrenal podcast. We've talked so much about this, but I guess we're just not going to ramble about what we talked about in other podcasts. But anyway, it's critical for any kind of mood, cognition, neurological functioning.
It helps set membrane potentials, right? So if you're like overhydrated or underhydrated, it can definitely impact like your resting membrane potentials of all your cells. So make sure you're drinking enough and it's appropriate, you know, the appropriate osmolarity. So number 2, we have exercise, right? We have done, I think that we called it, you know, the most clinically effective form of exercise, where we broke down like our favorite exercise, which is interval training, or mine at least.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, exercising has been shown to improve cardiovascular output. It improves blood flow. It's going to help you actually grow, and it releases growth factors and growth peptides that helps you get bigger, faster, stronger. increased endurance. And actually, we just did a podcast on this too, where regular exercise is actually 1.5 times more effective at helping with depression and anxiety than pharmaceuticals. So if you have low energy,
that's right.
Rest, start exercising.
Yeah,
right?
Exercise also one thing, and we've talked about this in our, I think it was interval training podcast, or whatever we called it. But anyway, but the right exercise stimulates mitochondria production, and mitochondria is is the organelle that generates ATP, which is what was energy, cellular energy. So exercise, we could confidently say, unless we're completely depleted with energy, exercise with intolerance will always increase energy. It's a guarantee.
Yeah.
It's not literally maybe it'll work. Like take some vitamin, maybe it'll work. No, it's a guarantee.
It will work. They did a muscle biopsy for it, and they're like, all right, there's a ton of mitochondria per density now. And it doesn't have to be super hard. You just got to alternate intensity, right? So walk slightly faster. Walk up a flight of stairs,
That's right.
So not rocket science. Listen to the podcast. That one was a pretty good one. We outlined quite a bit in that. We've also done a podcast on the next one, which is sleep hygiene, right? Get quality sleep. Get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Helps you regulate your circadian rhythm, helps you produce the appropriate amount of stress hormones. It helps you basically regenerate and helps you heal. So if you're not sleeping, you're not getting energy. You're not getting your energy restored.
Exactly. We sleep 20% less than we did 100 years ago. 20% less. That's madness.
Crazy.
And then we've talked about time change. I can't remember what podcast.
Yeah, we did one on daylight savings time.
Yeah,
like how car accidents and cardiovascular incidents go up like the day after.
Like, it's like 20.
Bring forward heart attacks.
20%. I think was it 20% increased risk of heart attacks and strokes associated with 1 hour variance in your routine.
Look at how much we've learned from these podcasts.
Yeah. Otherwise, we wouldn't
listen to all. You guys should listen to all of them. You guys would be spouting off statistics about daylight savings time too.
Then you can sub for me when I want a day off of the podcast.
And today's co-host is Doug.
What's your name?
From the comments.
Doug from Indiana. Doug from India. Okay, so there we go. And stress management. So stress is always a big thing. It's complicated, but it's real. And I would say emotional burden, emotional stress is maybe one of the most detrimental things that affects every aspect of someone's health. And it'll naturally deplete you. There's a reason why a person can work, 12, 14 hours a day. We've done that many times. Physical labor.
Yep.
And you're tired, you have a great sleep, you wake up in the morning and you're still ready to take on the
crank
world.
It to do it again.
Yeah. But if you do, your emotional burden, working with chronic illness some days, we've talked about this, and you have a full clinical shift and it's just back to back to back to back, emotionally burdensome.
Well, you want a perfect example of this? Go to work, come home, fight with your spouse, sleep, and wake up and tell me how your next day at work was.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right. So in summary, stress will deplete your energy. Get rid of it, whatever it is.
Yeah, right. And I would also argue if you're doing the 3 previous things, if you're hydrating, exercising, and sleeping well, then your stress is probably going to be a little bit mitigated, right? Or you can manage it more effectively.
Always, yeah.
All right, so let's go on to option 2, because this is like something that gets asked all the time in our office, in our offices.
Yeah. What is the magical this for that? What is the magical?
And there isn't one, right? So this is just like stuff that we commonly use, and there is research supporting this.
Yeah. And I can put the links below. But ashwagandha, that's a big one. It's known as an adaptogenic herb. There's a few of them that are. It's been around forever. It helps you adapt to high stress situations or low stress situations, or I should say, reduced adrenal function, hyperadrenal or weak adrenals. Helps you to adapt to each. But when the adrenals get depleted enough, and we've talked about this on an adrenal podcast before, adrenal fatigue, I think we called it. I can't remember. When they get depleted enough, then you get into a chronic exhaustion, and ashwagandha helps you, adapt to it. Another one is CoQ10. That's a big one. It's seen as the heart antioxidant, and rightfully so. But it's a big player in promoting mitochondria. mitochondrial function. It's you can almost call it the food to promote mitochondria. In CoQ10, you don't just take it and you're like, wow, I feel this necessarily, but it helps with recovery, right? I think
Yeah.
that's what we talked about. Yeah, with and it was
Well,
studied.
that's actually like a good example of like CoQ10, right? If you look at statins, statins actually deplete CoQ10. So then when people get like diffuse fibrous muscle pain, it's because they're literally like losing the ability to generate energy in their muscle tissue. So it's like an ache. And that's because CoQ10 has been depleted, right?
Yeah. And then the family of B vitamins, especially B9, B12, B6.
You guys have all heard about that. That's the 5 hour energy stuff. Like that's all that things like caffeine and B
loaded
vitamins.
with caffeine and sugar. Yeah. No, we're just talking about the
with caffeine and B vitamins and synthetic B vitamins.
Yeah, we're just talking about the B vitamins here, but they're a big player in everything to do with energy. So if you should be able to take a lot of B vitamins and you shouldn't notice an energy boost. You shouldn't unless you're depleted on them.
Right.
That would be the easiest way to put it. And even B6 is a big player in energy production. And females on contraceptives, 100% guaranteed their B6 is depleted due to contraceptives. So I always recommend any females on contraceptive consider taking B6.
Yep.
Okay. Ginseng. I have you ever prescribed this for energy?
Never.
I haven't either, but this is what's in the research. Multiple studies have suggested that ginseng supplementation can improve mental health, physical performance, as well as reduce fatigue. A randomized controlled trial published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology, am I saying that right? Showed that ginseng supplementation enhanced energy levels, improved cognition function. Now, I have seen it prescribed for cognitive issues. I have seen that. And it's been around forever and a day. It's been used for energy or vitality, but I personally don't use it. You want to start running through some of the others?
Yeah. So rhodiola, it's kind of like that's an adaptogen too. So it's really kind of in the same realm as like ashwagandha. Mm-hmm. In fact, a lot of those adaptogenic blends use both ashwagandha and rhodiola. Iron, you could persuade me on this one. You could also. It's kind of like my pet peeve when people are recommended to take iron and you don't know why.
that bothers me. That bothers me in a big way.
It's kind of a big deal for me. So when we were trying to, do we include it? Do we not include it? It can be very beneficial, especially if you're iron deficient. However, if you are iron deficient, well, let's find out why before we just start pouring a bunch of iron down there.
Sure, we did a podcast on iron.
Yeah, on anemia. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So don't if you're listening to this, don't just think, oh my goodness, I have dark circles under my eyes and I need iron. Please don't. Iron can cause all sorts of GI problems if you don't need it or you go too high with it. Iron also causes digestive bacterial infections because bacteria love iron. It's a food source. So don't just, go hog wild with it. That iron is dangerous.
Well, and also if you're low, right, figure out why.
Yeah.
If you could have like, a bleeding ulcer, you could have whatever, right? Figure out why you have low iron. The next one though, you don't have to persuade me because I see low levels of vitamin D all the time. And you literally use vitamin D for everything for energy metabolism. There's like I think, or did I read this statistic? I can't remember. There's 2 receptors on every single cell in your entire body. One is a vitamin D receptor and the other one's a thyroid receptor. So
I didn't know vitamin D was everywhere.
Wow. Yeah, everywhere. Yeah. So if you're low on vitamin D and your energy depleted, then you better get her up.
And that's another thing.
So just because you're like in the low end of normal, maybe not high enough still.
We should do an episode just on vitamin D since we want to talk.
We probably should. Or did we do one already?
No, we didn't. I would have.
Oh, we should because the range on vitamin D is atrocious. It's like 30 to 100. It's like I'm good. I'm at 30.
I've actually seen 23 on one.
On the ranges.
One lab. Yeah. 23.
What is your lowest you've ever seen on vitamin D? Mine was 6.
12.
Yeah. 6. And I was like, hey, are you taking vitamin D? She's like, yeah, I am. I'm like, not enough. She's like, how do we dose it? I was like, open your mouth and throw as many capsules at your mouth and whatever sticks to your tongue, just take it. Like you're not taking enough.
So there's vitamin D.
Vitamin D. Make sure you're taking it. Next one, green tea. Green tea has caffeine. It's also an antioxidant. Can improve alertness. You do want to be slightly cautious because green tea is an actual immune stimulator. So taking too much of it
and
can
immune
cause your immune
stimulators,
system.
yeah, and immune stimulators aren't always a good thing.
Not always, right? Especially if you have like autoimmune disease. And the last one we cited is maca root. You know, basically they've shown that it has beneficial and therapeutic effects on energy levels in both animals and humans. You know, and
yeah, maca has been around for a long time. I have seen a lot of people improve their energy, but again, if anybody's listening is looking to improve energy, kind of look at the basics first before just diving into all these supplements and
right,
hog wild with that. Focus
yeah.
on
Why?
the
You know, if
lifestyle.
you can take all the supplements in the world, but if you're diabetic, you know,
you're
that
not
might
sleeping.
Be
Yeah, if you're not sleeping, you could take a truckload of supplements every day, and it's not going to make any.
And is it that the supplements aren't working? Well, they're probably helping, right? But it's a band-aid.
That's right.
You know, so let's figure out why the energy is low in the first place.
So here's our energy brief, right to the point. Strategies.
Yeah,
non-pharmaceutical strategies.
Nutraceuticals, some lifestyle stuff, and yeah. Again, if you guys got value out of this and you liked it and enjoyed it, please hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications. You can get a hold of us.
And if you watched all the podcast, send in your information.
Yeah, co-host. Next co-host.
Joe from Indiana.
And we'll do the intro extra, and then we'll just put on 2 random people. Here's our outline. Good luck. So yeah, if you guys liked today's episode and you got value out of it, please hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications, because we're going to continue to roll out new content each and every week, and hopefully it's applicable to you. If you'd like to get a hold of us, our contact information is info@brainstormingwiththedocs.com. We check that email pretty regularly. You can get a hold of us on our websites. Mine is northlakeschiropractic.com. Dr. Glenn's is drgharrison.com. If you guys have questions on the supplements, we do have an online store to a full script account where you guys can have access to all of those. Get a hold of us and we can send that to you. And yeah, stay tuned, because
it'll also be in the link in the description.
There you go. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And then again, if you guys have questions or comments, please reach out to us. And we're going to roll out this content semi-regularly. We're shooting for every other week. And yeah, so stay tuned.
All right. We're good. All right. I look forward to the next one.
Sounds good. Talk to you soon.